friends, it's Becky from Sustainable Prepping, your home for fear-free emergency preparedness on the internet. Today I'm going to show you how you can jump into home food preservation with not a lot of investment and not a lot of skill. You don't need to panic buy and be afraid of any looming food shortages or a future emergency if you hone this one skill. If you're new here, I want to say a great big welcome. If you're not new, I want to say welcome back. This is my living room / dining room, and I'm showing you one of the easiest home food preservation techniques out there. Pressure canning is something that worries a lot of people. Water bath canning can also be a little bit intimidating. You have to have jars and a canner. If you want to get into freeze drying, you have to buy a multiple $1,000 freeze dryer, but not with dehydrating. This is my trusty old Excalibur, which I got used from a friend. Dehydrating is something that you can jump into without a lot of skill built up, without a lot of investment, and you don't need to have a lot of space. This isn't that big. There are smaller versions than this. There are the round circular versions, and you can get an at-home dehydrator for about 35 bucks. So it's not a huge investment and layout. You don't need necessarily to have any jars, and you can start with just vegetables you have today. So there's a lot of easy ways to get started. Now, dehydration is one of the oldest preservation techniques out there. It is drawing moisture out of food using heat and airflow. This is different than freeze drying, which is a much more complicated process, but it does preserve food for longer. Freeze-dried food, which you can buy commercially or if you buy a freeze dryer, can last really indefinitely. If properly packaged, it can last upwards of 20+ years. Dehydrated food doesn't have that. It has about a 1-year shelf life at most, so you do need to plan on rotating it. But if this is for your working pantry, if this is to help recession-proof your pantry by buying fruits and vegetables now at the lower cost in order to have them to help hold you through inflation or to hold you through an emergency, you don't need to have them last for more than a year because you're going to be using them. And that's the whole point. You want to be using them. This is for your working pantry or your mid-term or mid-tier food storage. Now, for some folks who are growing their own food, there's lots of steps if you want to take things from your garden and bring them to your table. But you don't have to do that. You can use frozen vegetables that you buy at the store. Now, one of the benefits of using frozen vegetables is that they're cut, they're washed, and they're blanched. If you're going to be dehydrating fresh vegetables, you need to blanch them for 1 to 2 minutes because that helps stop the enzyme breakdown. All of our food preservation techniques are to help stop food from rotting or breaking down. So we want to make sure that if you're using fresh, you blanch them and you wash them appropriately. If you want to get started fast though, don't worry about any of that. Get yourself some frozen veggies. Get the organic ones if you want, if they're available. We don't really have that available where we are, but you can choose which vegetables, which mixtures, and whether or not they're organic. So definitely get what you need. Now, all you're going to do to get started is have trays. Half of my trays came with these wonderful breathable little slats, and half of mine didn't. All of it works just fine. You want clean trays, you want your dehydrator of whatever kind you have, and you want your veggies. You're just going to open your veggies. And you are going to just pour them onto the tray. You want to have a nice thin layer. Ooh, there's some husk in mine. A nice thin layer of your veggies. Because you don't want them to be too thick, otherwise it takes longer to dehydrate. And what we're going to do is have a nice thin layer, and it's going to pull all the moisture out. So I don't know if y'all can see that. There's my nice thin layer, and we're just going to slide that in. You can do this with mixed vegetables. This is a great blend for soups and stews. You could even use this as a stir fry and just rehydrate it. And again, you're going to pour it out. All right, so you have your nice tray of mixed veggies, and again, add it into your dehydrator. Then you're gonna fill up all your trays, fill up your dehydrator, and set it to start. once you have your trays filled, you're just gonna slide them into your dehydrator, however your dehydrator works. Some dehydrators are stackable circular ones. Those are fine, just stack them how you need to. Make sure you put your cover on them. And then look at your owner's manual. Some of them are going to suggest different temperatures based on the different make. My owner's manual is actually printed on the top, which is wonderful. And for fruits, and for vegetables, we want 125 to 135. Now it is going to take anywhere from about 12 to 15 hours. You just want to check it at about the 10 to 12 hour mark, again, depending upon your style of dehydrator, how much you have in there, and how thick the material is. That's going to let you know how long it's going to take. So it is currently just about 11 o'clock. I am going to check this before I go to bed tonight to see if it's ready. If not, I'll just let it go through the night, or stop it and then let it go in the morning. Pretty low key, you just set it and set a timer, check it, and that's it. You don't have to do anything else until you're ready to jar it up. Welcome back, friends. It has been about 15 hours since we started putting our vegetables in to dehydrate. This is what the corn looks like. You are going to want to let your vegetables rest at least 10 or 15 minutes so that they sort of cool. Now, if it's really humid where you are, you may need to do this quite quickly. You might want to look at how humid it is when you try to jar them up, because we don't want them rehydrating from the humidity in the air. So if it's really, really humid, you might not want to dehydrate, or you might want to be a little bit more quick. But we don't want them to be warm because they could cause condensation in your glass, and then they would start to rehydrate, and then you would have just sort of undid a lot of the hard work that you've just done. So keep all of that in mind. When you are testing them, you want them to be crunchy. Pretty crunchy. You want your denser vegetables or even your fruit to be completely dehydrated on the inside. And sometimes the outside will feel crunchy to the touch, but it will not be totally dehydrated in the middle. So it is important that you test whatever it is you're dehydrating to make sure it's totally dehydrated all the way through. Then you want to take a clean glass jar. Now, these do not have to be safe for canning, because we're not going to can them, right? We're just going to seal them. But you want to take a clean glass jar. You want to make sure that you have lids. This is a great way to reuse canning lids. If you pressure or water bath can, you cannot reuse these kinds of little metal lids for pressure or water bath canning, but you can use them when you're vacuum sealing dehydrated goods, and you're going to need rings. Now, I also have a canning funnel because I am going to try not to make a mess. We will see whether or not I'm successful. You're just gonna very gently lift your tray liner and pour everything into your jar. Pick out the little pieces. And there you go. This is 1 pound of frozen corn. As you can see, it's about a cup, right? It dehydrates down to about half a pint jar. And the great thing about this is that I can use this for any kind of soup, stew. I could put it in a curry. I could even rehydrate these and use these in stir fry if I wanted to. So now I have a pound of vegetables that can sit on my shelf for a year and not take up space in my freezer. Here is the second tray of corn that I did, and we're just gonna do the same thing. If you see any bad ones, if there are any that look black, they look like they maybe were imperfect to begin with, this is a great time to just pick them out before you put them in your jar. So that's super easy. It really is a set it and forget it kind of method. And now, with just a little bit of effort, I have an entire pint jar. So 2 cups dried, 2 pounds when it was frozen of corn that I can put on my shelf and can sit there for up to 1 year. Again, these are only good for 1 year. Let's get the mixed veggies. This is what the mixed veggies turned out like. I am not 100% sure you can see that. Now we're gonna test one of the green beans. That is very dry. That is quite dry, but it tastes like green bean, which is good. And there it is. This is the half of a jar. We'll do one more. I have a third jar just in case we had extras, but it doesn't look like we are going to need to do that. And this is what it looks like on not having the liners that have all the holes. This is a flat liner. These flat liners that don't have the holes are for making things like fruit leather, where you need to be able to pour a liquid onto your dehydrator tray. And not have it leak everywhere, obviously. Okay, so this one did not quite fill 1 pint jar. Do you see that? It did not quite fill 1 pint jar. So I could probably dehydrate a whole nother bag and just about fill this completely. That's really good to know. So for about 10 minutes or so of work to get them set up and then letting them sit overnight, I have 2 pint jars. And these pint jars can sit on my shelves. I'm going to vacuum seal them. I'll show you how to do it in just a second. And they are going to last for a year. They're going to get frozen vegetables out of my freezer so that my freezer can be for high ticket items. This is why dehydrating will be a good recession proof pantry skill, right? Not just an emergency skill, but a recession proof skill, because if you can use your freezer, even if you only have a little freezer that is above your fridge, you can take things that are lower ticket items like your vegetables and you can dehydrate them, get them on the shelf, and then your freezer space can be dedicated to higher ticket items like meats and dairies and even some fruits that don't dehydrate quite as well. Let me go get my vacuum sealer and I'll show you how to do that. Okay, I'm going to show you how to use a vacuum sealer. Now this is a food saver. It also vacuum seals packages, but it has a sealing function that will work for jars. So what you're going to do is put your lids right on your jars. They don't need to be pre-soaked or anything. Again, we don't want any moisture because moisture is the enemy here. You are going to need a little nozzle like this. This is a suction cup with a rubber gasket and a hole here. And you're going to need one of these. They make them in wide mouth size and regular mouth size. And so you're going to need the right size. So you're just going to fit it on top. Make sure that this is inside the upper hole. And then you're going to turn it on and press seal. Okay, let us see. And there you go. It is vacuum sealed. This can sit on the shelf for another year. So I'm going to just date it and put it on the shelf, and there we're good to go. Now I am actually not going to vacuum seal this one because I am going to do some more dehydrating and fill it up. So here it is. This is how you do it. You need a few extra accessories, but now you have some home dehydrated vegetables. Again, these will sit on your shelf and be shelf stable, and they will help free up your freezer space. I know that a lot of people are anxious about food shortages, but you don't have to be. This is just a really great, easy way for you to get into home preservation. This is a great and easy way for you to stock your shelves. And friends, you don't have to panic. You don't have to be anxious. You don't have to go buy thousands of dollars of fancy freeze-dried food, prepackaged meals, expensive items that are marketed as emergency food. You don't have to do that. And you don't have to go and stockpile tons of groceries, particularly if it's things you're not used to eating or using. If you use frozen vegetables in soups, stews, stir fries, curries. This is a great way to pick your favorites, dehydrate them, and then get them on your shelves. That way your freezer can be full again of those high ticket items. It will help you be calm and confident in a crisis to know that you have this extra food, and it will also help your budget to stay calm and confident in a recession. This is one of a bunch of different skills that you can learn. Use what you have what you use, and get some home dehydrated veggies on your shelves. Comment down below and let me know, are you into dehydrating? What is your favorite food preservation method? I would love to hear in the comments what everybody is doing. Don't forget to come and follow me over on Instagram, and to like this video and subscribe to this channel. Share it with a friend and let them know that there is an option to be calm and confident in any crisis. Until next time, friends, happy prepping.